Well, people just aren't going along with Evan Rachel Wood's story like she might have hoped or expected. And last night, sources close to Marilyn Manson hid out in the Daily Mail, and it was front page, online, front and center, headline news. Manson fights back. And it was sources close to Manson going on the record and saying that Evan Rachel Wood's story was BS and that she lost custody not because of Manson, but because of her own very deeply problematic, crazy behaviors in her own custody dispute in family court with her ex and the father of her child, Jamie Bell. Well, today, there's more of that story coming out, and this time it's coming out in a mainstream media source. This is not some incidental blog, celebrity focused blog that we're talking about, but Fox News has latched onto this. And there's an article out just now. It says shock rocker not to blame in Evan Rachel Wood custody battle, X says. It's Jamie Bell it's referring to. Quote, nothing to do with Marilyn Manson. The custody battle has nothing to do with Marilyn Manson. Now, this Fox News article is quoting from the same court documents that I've been talking about, that I've seen and that I've talked with you about, Tennessee court documents publicly available in which Jamie Bell alleges various things, including that Evan Rachel Wood is harming their child, that she is filling the child's head with these disturbed delusions about Marilyn Manson, and so forth. So let's look at this article. It says Jamie Bell, ex-husband of actress Evan Rachel Wood, declared in court her behavior toward their son, Jack, quote, truly alarming, and refuted claims that alleged threats from goth rock star Marilyn Manson were central to the pair's custody battle. Wood and Bell had been fighting over the custody of their son when reports Thursday broke that Wood had handed over primary custody to Bell. This is what Evan Rachel Wood was, I believe, was saying in this article that came out, that Wood had handed over primary custody to Bell, citing fears that Manson, her ex-fiance, was threatening her and her son. But a declaration by Bell filed in court, obtained first by Fox News Digital. So congratulations, Fox News Digital. First of all, I just want to say someone is finally doing some journalism here, but more about that in a moment. Obtained first by Fox News Digital, reveals that Bell wanted the court to know that Evan's recent behavior with Jack, this is quoting him now, right? Jamie Bell is saying, quote, Evan's recent behavior with Jack is truly alarming. And Bell indicated that Wood was, quote, feeding, unquote, false information about Manson to the child. A person close to Manson told Fox News Digital. So this is someone close to Manson speaking out, right? So this is as I would understand it, I don't have any special knowledge, but as I would assume, this is Manson's way of getting a message out. Quote, Evan is blaming Manson to cover up the fact that she's an unfit mother. She didn't give up custody. She lost it, and it has nothing to do with Manson. Exactly right. The article goes on and says Wood, who lives in Tennessee, had been allegedly keeping the boy away from Los Angeles, where Bell lives, because, she claims, she is a key witness in an investigation into abuse by Manson, whose real name is Brian Warner. The Frozen 2 actress has also claimed that Manson said he would, quote, not going to say it, her young son. Manson has denied all claims. Bell stated in a declaration document, however, that, quote, Evan's initial contention as to why she failed to return Jack to California was because she says she is involved in a high-profile investigation regarding supposed abuse by Brian. I have nothing to do with this investigation, but Evan contends that she is now fearful for her and Jack's safety, unquote. That was Jamie Bell. Continuing on, then Jamie Bell says, quote, during our recent stipulated visitation that Evan allowed at my in-laws' house in Florida, Jack, that's the son, the kid, we're talking about at this point a 6, 7-year-old, Jack voiced his concern for his safety and reminded us repeatedly of the man who hurt his mom and displayed emotional outbursts. Jack, the kid, displayed emotional outbursts related to the case his mother is involved in. When I mentioned fun things to do in the future, Jack told me he could only do them, quote, if Brian is in jail, Bell stated. And then Jamie Bell says, I'm absolutely appalled and terrified that Evan is feeding this information to our 7-year-old, he said. Then Bell says, quote, I know Evan loves our son, but I'm very concerned by how she is handling the current situation. Whatever fears Evan may have regarding third parties should have nothing to do with me or the custody of our son. I do not even want to think of the short and long-term psychological harm Evan might be inflicting upon Jack with this kind of talk. And then a source close to Manson, Brian Warner, is quoted as telling Fox Digital, quote, Brian Warner has not had any contact nor communications of any kind with Evan Rachel Wood in nearly a decade. At no time has Brian Warner ever threatened Ms. Wood or her family. Wood has not provided a shred of evidence of Warner making any threats against her or her family. So look, everybody, the word is finally getting out. And there is a kind of a sort of delightful, I have to say, as someone who has been, along with others, sounding the drums on this for so long, there's a sort of a delightful Streisand effect that's occurring here. It's the Streisand effect, right? Where when someone is outraged, a celebrity perhaps, right, is outraged about something, and so they make a big deal about it in the media. And what does that do? It has the oppositional effect of drawing more attention to it, right? Well, that is exactly what Evan Rachel Wood has done here. And again, I've been saying this all week. I wonder if she's going a little cuckoo now with recent developments. I don't know, especially Marilyn Manson coming out so defiantly and basically saying, I'm taking over my life again, in a manner of speaking, right? And now he's finally fighting back in the media. He has people, make no mistake, okay? I have no special knowledge, but you can see it, right? There are these sources close to Manson that are talking, right? That I would imagine are authorized to talk. He is signaling to Evan Rachel Wood, I think, that he is not going to take it anymore. Not going to take it. And for Evan Rachel Wood, and by the way, if you're wondering what all this court custody stuff is about, I've already done several videos on it, so I'm not going to get into it again here, but I'm going to link to those videos below. They're not very long. They're fascinating. I discuss court documents. I discuss recent developments. I get into Evan Rachel Wood's history, like so many sordid aspects of this. But check those links out below. Look at my channel. But I just have to say, where Evan Rachel Wood is concerned, there is something about this situation. As much as I dislike her and dislike what she's done, and I think she's manipulative and diabolical, and I think she's on, like Amber Heard, but on steroids, a whole other level. Truly Amber Heard 2.0. There's a part of me that looks at her too as this tragic figure. It reminds me, it really does. I've talked before on my channel about how much I love Shakespeare's Macbeth. It's a cliche, I know, because it's considered to be one of his best plays and one of the best works of literature in the history of the world, right? And so, yeah, it's not like a bold claim I'm making, but like it really is. It is one of my favorite works of literature. And so many gangster films, right, like Scarface, and it's really have been based on it loosely to some extent. It really is a kind of a template for gangster films, crime films. But there is something really Shakespearean about the arc of this person, of Evan Rachel Wood, and the character that she's constructed for herself. It's interesting. People talk a lot, and I do too, I as well, talk a lot about the character that that Brian Warner has constructed, called Marilyn Manson. And I think it's interesting, but yes, it's and relevant to discuss that, and to some degree to discuss it, to debunk it, right? That's not really him. That's not really Brian Warner. But I think it is interesting too to think about the character or characters that Evan Rachel Wood has constructed for herself, and the iterations that she's gone through over the years. And it's interesting, Evan Rachel Wood has claimed time and again, and she claims it in Phoenix Rising, that 2-part pseudo-documentary hit job on HBO. She has claimed that Marilyn Manson, that Brian Warner got so wrapped up in what in this persona he created, in this character he created called Marilyn Manson, that he lost himself, that Brian Warner lost himself, and he became a monster. Well, we know from the investigation that I've done and others have done, and people who've come forward, and we know that that's not him, right? That Brian Warner is not Marilyn Manson. But here's the interesting thing to think about. I think Evan Rachel Wood is really projecting tremendously in that assertion. She's projecting what's happened to herself in typical, toxic narcissistic fashion. She's projecting it, because I think what's happened with her is that she has become completely lost in whatever character she thinks she's playing. This abused, terrorized activist who's just trying to get, I'm just trying to get someone to pay attention. Everybody's paying attention. You just don't have any evidence. Where is your evidence? You've got the DA, you've got the LA DA, George Gascon. This is how much, this is how, this is how privileged Evan Rachel Wood actually is in so many ways. The DA, the LA DA, George Gascon, he has evidence that Evan Rachel Wood was a part of this giant hoax and that Marilyn Manson, Brian Warner, is innocent. And the police did this whole investigation and looked at all his devices, seized all his devices, and all of that, right? No charges against him, no arrest, nothing. It's not the case that there's this crazy violent predator running around and the police know about it and no one's arresting him. No, the police know it's a hoax. And I've talked to my channel at length about how I believe they do. And I've even talked to someone that they interviewed. The police know it's a hoax. They wrote it up in their report. They sent the report over to LADA George Gascon, and he is sitting on it because he doesn't want to clear Manson and he doesn't want Evan Rachel Wood to be upset with him. That is the height of privilege, and it's ridiculous. But Evan Rachel Wood has gotten completely wrapped up in this activist, this aggrieved, victimized, and Joan of Arc now activist role that she's playing. And it is quite evident that she is going to push forward with it. I mean, the fact that she came out and supported and leaked to that story yesterday, her perspective, her spin in that story that came out yesterday, she is doubling down or going all in. I'm not sure which, but she's committing to it. And there's something very tragic about that. I was thinking about the play Macbeth. And, you know, if you know about the play, if you know the plot of the play, it begins with a man who, at the beginning of the play, he has everything you could want. So, you know, the arc of tragedy is that you start at great heights, or you go up and ascend and you get to great heights, and then you do something stupid or you do something wrong or whatever, or fate just comes along and smacks you in the face, and then bam. So it's the what makes tragedy as a genre interesting, right, is the discrepancy between the heights and the lows, right, in terms of the narrative arc. And you see this in gangster films too, like they get to the top and then they come down. Political stuff, whatever, right? Wars, generals, Napoleon. Well, there's this quote by Napoleon that I love, and I can never remember it exactly, but I love it. I'm going to paraphrase it. It's something like, this was Napoleon when he was on the ascendancy. And he said something like, "Fortune will raise me up to the heights before she dashes me against the rocks." I shouldn't even have to explain that. It's just a beautiful quote and profound. And it's interesting, you know, there's a sort of ballsiness, say what you will about Napoleon, or say nothing, I don't know, but there's a real ballsiness to that sort of, I'm going to go for it and it'll go great for a while. And then probably I'll be fucked in the end, you know, but whatever. I went for it. I think that's ballsy, dude. He did get a lot of people killed though. That little trek to Russia. So anyway, where was I going with that? I'm certainly not wanting to compare Evan Rachel Wood to Napoleon. No, I'm saying that the play Macbeth starts with this man who has reached really these heights. He is a nobleman. He's very wealthy. He's very esteemed. He is related to the king. He's a cousin of the king. And so he's like hooked up, you know, and then at the beginning of the play, he's a war hero. Macbeth is a war hero. And so he has this great life, and you know, and he seemingly destroys it unnecessarily. Now there's a whole backstory with like witches and prophecy and things like that, but I'm saying like the overall message of this is the idea of someone who has this great life, and they just have to throw a wrench into it with their narrow focus, or their solipsism, or their ambition, or their delusions. And so what happens is, he gets this idea, he gets this prophecy. It's a lie. He even kind of knows from the beginning it might be a lie, right? But he gets this prophecy that he's supposed to become the king, and his wife, Lady Macbeth, really wants him to do it. She's cheering him on. So I guess Lady Macbeth could be like Ilma Gore in this formulation. And so Macbeth, he kills the king, and he regrets it. I would say he regrets it almost immediately after he does it, but no, that's not right, because he regrets it sooner than that. I would say that he regrets it while he's doing it, but actually he regrets it before he does it. He regrets it before he does it, and he does it anyway. And that just says something about human nature that's very interesting, but that's for another conversation. But here's the point. As soon as he kills the king, he says, "Methinks I heard a voice saying, 'Sleep no more. Macbeth hath murdered sleep.'" And what he means is that because of this thing that he's done, this terrible treachery and this murder, like the rest of his life now, it's like it's irreparable. You'll never sleep again. You'll never have peace again. And what happens is, sure enough, he keeps trying to dig himself out of what he's done, but he digs himself out by going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so his behavior gets worse and worse, and he lies more and more, and he starts having people killed, and then he tries to have a kid killed, and it just gets completely out of whack. And there's this, and I'm getting to a point here, okay? With Evan Rachel Wood. But there is a frightening, chilling scene where Macbeth is assessing this. It's in the middle of the play, and he's got all this like shit about to rain down on him, and people are after him, want to kill him, and whatever. And he says, and he kind of assesses his situation and the deep shit that he's gotten himself into. And he says, "I'm in blood, stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as going over." Now, what does that mean? What he's saying is that he has done so many bad things, and he has gotten himself into such deep shit. He has waded so far into the blood, so to speak, because he's been killing people and all this, right? He says that that there's no way out of this that's clean anymore. There's no good way out of this anymore. There's no path out of this where I'm totally get away with it. He says, "Where I'm at, I'm in the middle of this big pool of blood, and to try to go backward, I'd have to go through as much blood. It would be as tedious," he says, "as perilous as to just keep going." And so what does he do? He just keeps going. And that is what Evan Rachel Wood is doing. And it's a shame, because I don't think that it's ever too late to turn around. And she doesn't have to turn around out of some sense of altruism or conscience, although I would love to think that she still has retained some shred of that at this point. And if you're watching Evan Rachel Wood, despite all of the bullshit, all of the sort of rough, aggressive language I use, and sometimes some of the bullshitting, but a lot of truthful talk and sarcasm and all of that, despite all of that, I really would like for you to find a way out of this that you can have peace about. And I still think that there's an out. I still think there's a way to come clean with this. I'm going to say the same thing to you that I said to Amber Heard in a video. I don't think it is ever too late to stop. And I think if you were willing to do some really gutsy, ballsy things and come out and make some statements, and I'm just saying I could see a way out for you with this, but it would require a total reversal. And as Macbeth says, it's hard when you've come through all of that and you've done all those shitty things. It's hard to just say, well, I did all of that for nothing, and now I have to go back and sort of retread all of it and be exposed for what I am. He says, no, I'm just going to keep going. But you know what? This is what I want to say to you, Evan Rachel Wood. To keep going, it ends up being the worst path. And that is the way to keep going deeper into your lies and your delusions and your treachery. To keep going into that, you're going to your destruction, metaphorically speaking. So I think this is a real turning point for Brian Warner, for Marilyn Manson. Congratulations to him for fighting back and for having his people fight back, whoever's talking to the press. And Evan Rachel Wood, I just don't think it's too late, sweetheart. I hope you think about it. I'm serious. I hope you think about it. And to everybody else, thank you so much for being interested in the story. I want to say to my Johnny Depp fans, I am really so appreciative of you being interested in this story, because I know it was kind of a big jump from the Johnny Depp stuff, especially at the beginning when we didn't know if when there were far fewer reasons to believe that Marilyn Manson might be innocent, and so to those of you who got on board at any point, got on board this train, thank you so much, and let's keep it going. Everybody, as always, I depend on your support. My links are below. Like, subscribe, tips, donations, links, all of that. And yeah, go Brian Warner. Have a good weekend, everybody.